Podcast 4K, The Second Coming. I'm one of your hosts, Eli Clausen.
And I have got to ask, have you ever had this Burger King buffalo sauce?
I have not.
It's freaking tasty as hell. It's crazy.
Speaking of Burger King, have you tried their chicken Caesar sandwiches?
I have not.
They are amazing too. They have a spicy, crispy, and grilled. I have now had all three. They are amazing.
Wow. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah. Buffalo sass.
Yes. I'm going to have to try combining those. I'm going to have to get those chicken sandwiches and put on the buffalo sauce I just threw.
That is a good idea. And the spicy one.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
yes. I've been getting their $1.50 10-piece nugget a bunch with that stuff. Oh, man. I mean, the toilets aren't happy, but I am.
I tried their cheese sticks last night too. Those are pretty good.
Yeah, I enjoy them a lot.
Burger King.
Holy crap. Oh,
Still
no.
left over from last night.
Nice. Well, we might as well have competitive cups. Yeah, what are you
Surge.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, so a different one this week. I always keep forgetting this title, even though I just looked at it earlier to listen to the album. So I will let you take this one over. What are we doing this week?
Yes, we are doing an album called Born to Laugh at Tornadoes from a band called Was Not Was.
Born to Laugh at Tomatoes. Okay.
Yes.
Again, I said this, last week and all, but I knew nothing about this band except for their one big hit, "Walk the Dinosaur," which is not on this album, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. Um, that was all I knew. We kind of expected it to be kind of, I don't know, an oddball type of album based on that one song in the band, and because "Walk the Dinosaur" is basically a novelty song, pretty much anyway. And I think that's kind of what we got with this album, but I don't know. You guys will find out by the end. I don't know. Maybe it was a bit of a surprise again. So since we're doing this again, only a day after the previous episode was uploaded, we have no comments or any other votes right now. But of course, we'll be sure to update those with next week's show and any that come in for this possible show. Just got a new computer. That's why it took me so long to get that one uploaded and all that stuff. So getting all that stuff converted over. So I guess we'll just get right into the info. I'm not used to jumping right to that, but let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. So I had to look up some information on this band. Just everything about this band kind of intrigues me. I'm always intrigued by sort of comedic bands and everything, trying to figure out what in the world, what does the name mean? What are they about? Apparently, it's just two dudes,
Hmm.
uh, David Weiss and Don Fagenson, which who knows if I've pronounced that right. I probably didn't. But they adopted the stage names David Was and Don Was.
Uh,
And turns out that the band name was named after Fagenson's infant son, Tony, at the time that they created the band, who would learn certain adjectives such as blue, and so he would point at blue things and say blue, and then anything else was not blue,
eh,
not blue. And apparently that was this his son Tony's favorite thing to do, was just anything like that that he learned. It was either the thing he learned or not that. So they
hmm,
thought it'd be funny to make their band name that too.
interesting.
Yes, they did release a bunch of albums. They've kind of gone on and off. Most of their albums are kind of based on guest appearances, which you'll see when we get to the personnel for this album because it's nuts. It's like 5 miles long.
Wow.
This album, Born to Laugh at Tornadoes, was released in 1983. It is their second album, which is interesting. Their first album was self-titled and came out in 1981. Uh, Rolling Stone actually declared it conceptually the best album of the year shortly after its release, which is interesting. This is 1983. Lick It Up came out this year. Also interesting considering this is a Vinnie Vincent album.
Exactly.
So he must have been doing the Creatures tour and whatever he did on
Wow.
this kind of at the same time. Kind of a weird connection there.
And I can't think of anything else that was 1983 off the top of my head to compare it with, but there's got to be some other, legendary type albums that came out that year, I would think.
Yes, Wikipedia lists at least two others here, which are apparently blamed more or less on Rock did nothing. This band didn't really hit the charts until Walk the Dinosaur, but
Right.
yeah, this it was Michael Jackson's Thriller and Prince's 1999
Oh, geez. There's no way.
that pretty much kept anything on this from getting higher than it could have been.
Wow. So, I don't know. I guess at that time, it was a lot of people were just like looking for the artsiest type of stuff they could find at that point, and the drugs were talking a lot back then. So, I think maybe that's what they were, why they considered that possibly the best album.
Right, right, and it definitely makes sense from that perspective. Um, this album ranges stylistically. It's ridiculous the different things that are on this. Another interesting person involved here is Robert Kinkel, who was one of the engineers that worked on this album, and he's actually a co-creator of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Nice.
Yeah, so lots of people that went on to do good things or were doing good things. This was recorded at the Sound Suite recording studios in Detroit, not too far from us, actually.
Hmm.
Uh, this is actually where the band was based out of anyway. This was produced by the two guys, David Was and Don Was, and also a guy named Jack Tan. Let's see. So the personnel here, this is again huge. Marshall Crenshaw, who played organ, guitar, and vocals. We've got Ozzy Osbourne doing a guest vocal.
What?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised you didn't hear that.
I totally missed that.
Yeah.
What's does it say? What song or
Yeah, it's a lot of the lead vocals and "Shake Your Head, Let's Go to Bed" are Ozzy.
what the?
Yeah, like the speaking rap part, that's Ozzy.
Oh my God! Now I got to listen to it again.
Yeah,
I don't know how I missed that.
yeah, oh yeah. And it doesn't end there. We've also got Mitch Ryder, who's
Nice.
lead on a song. Of course, Vinnie Vincent, who played guitar throughout the album. Joseph LaDuca on guitar. Mel Torme, piano and vocals. Yeah, he was the one that did the closing track, Zaz Turned Blue.
Right, that's what I thought.
Right. Carol Hall on vocals, Sweet Pea Atkinson on vocals, Wayne Kramer on guitar, Marin Alsop
Nice.
on violin, Chris Blackwell on vocals, Sir Harry Bowens on vocals, Gervany Collier on bass, Michael Edwards vocals, Doug Feiger on vocals, Kathy Cousins on vocals, Yogi Horton on drums, Smit E. Smitty on Simmons drums, uh, Bob Kulick on guitar because of course,
Wow.
Leon Hart on bass, David McMurray soprano and tenor saxophone, Bruce Nazarian on guitar, Luis Resto on organ synthesizer and vocoder, Paul Reiser who did the horn and string arrangement on Knockdown Made Small, John Roby on the synthesizer, John Sinclair background vocals. Of course, we've got the two guys, David Was on keyboard, saxophone, and vocals, and Don Was on synthesizer, bass, and vocals. Randy Jacobs, who played bass, guitar, and background vocals. Lawrence Fratangelo, not sure, percussion.
Fishburne.
Yes, yes. And then we've got some more production. Looks like Debbie Caponetta, production coordination. Michael Zilka, executive producer, and then the Detroit Wasmopolitan Mixing Squad, who mixed the album. So yeah, some crazy. I feel like there was some other. Um, okay, so Doug Feiger was the lead vocalist of the Knack.
Oh, okay.
I knew there was some other recognizable names in there.
I'm almost more impressed with Wayne Kramer being on it than Ozzy.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, I totally got to listen to that song again
yeah.
because that it. Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but it ended up being one of my favorites. But
Right. Yeah, if you listen, I wouldn't have ever guessed that the quote unquote rap part was him, but the chorus where it's singing, once you know, you're gonna feel kind of dumb you didn't notice.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I must have lost my train of thought because I was listening to it, and at the same time I'm sitting here like reinstalling all of my programs, and so I must have like lost track for a second. But I did like the song.
Yeah.
So is that all we got there? No singles or anything came off of this.
There were, let's see, a couple, but they were very weird. Actually, that has reminded me of another thing. So the Aussie song "Shake Your Head, Let's Go to Bed." Um, I think it was released as a single at the time, but then it was also re-recorded in 1992 by a different guy, and he had Ozzy re-record his vocal part, and Kim Basinger actually did the other vocal part on that
Huh?
re-recording.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was released as a single, both for that guy, and then also that was on a Was Not Was compilation album that was released later in the '90s as well.
Hmm.
Interestingly, too, Madonna is was intended to be on. This is before she was big at all. Nobody knew who she was. She
Mm.
recorded vocal parts for that song, and then they decided not to use it. They wanted to use her vocal tracks on that re-recorded version, but she was like, "No, no, you can't have it." So they apparently it got leaked, so it does exist, but she was not happy. Also, Return to the Valley of Out Come the Freaks was released as a single, and also, interestingly, there is some version of this song on each of their albums.
What?
Yeah, so on the first album, there's a song called Out Come the Freaks. And this is why it's such a weird title on the second one, because it's the return to the valley of the song Out Come
Yeah.
the Freaks. And then the next album, the one that had Walk the Dinosaur, had Out Come the Freaks again. And then I think on one of their other albums, there's one called Look What's Back. And it's all just basically the same song idea, but at varying tempos and arrangements, and lyrics are usually different, but kind of an interesting concept.
Kind of like Ace, how he had like a version of Fractured Mirror on like pretty much every album for the longest time.
Yeah.
I wonder if Madonna turned him down with her fake English accent or not.
I hope.
Oh, jeez. All right, so getting into the album itself here. Um, so as you may have already guessed when you heard some of these titles, yes, there are some oddball titles for some of these songs. No, we are not misspeaking, and
Yeah.
uh, all right. So we open up with the track "Knocked Down, Made Small, Treated Like a Rubber Ball." This was the only one that they had a video for, which you can find there on YouTube. Um, this is my number four. Pretty good song. Chorus was pretty catchy. Again, I know I feel like I say this a lot on some of these oddball albums that we're doing, but I kind of felt like I was watching the intro to an 80s comedy again. It just feels like that quirky type of thing. Um, not as weird right off the bat as I kind of expected for the album to be. Um, and I thought, the song had a little bit of soul to it as well. It kind of had a cool little groove going in there. So um, check out the video. It's interesting. A lot of people say it's an underrated video. They say it's a very artsy type of video.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing where all the characters are swinging the rubber ball around. Kind of interesting. Which I noticed if you take a peek at the album cover, there's somebody on the album cover doing that.
Yeah. Hmm.
Kind of a cool little thingy.
And I'm a big fan of the color blue, so that album cover caught my attention right away. Just that shade of blue.
Yeah, that one was my number five. Yeah, I noted the video was really cool, and also how many guitarists were in that video.
Right.
was like the whole back wall of musicians was.
Yeah, when you said there was only two guys that are the official band, I was like, wow, like they just must use a lot of studio musicians or whatever. But
Yeah, it was probably all guest
mm.
appearances. But yeah, and then I noted, well, I can already tell from the lyrics that this whole album is going to be hilarious.
I liked how you texted me yesterday and you're like, I feel weird.
I really did too.
Luke had a weird experience last night listening to this album.
I really did. It was like the album gave me a contact high or something.
Okay. Track two. No, I am not turning into a canine, but it is called Bow Wow Wow Wow. Um, this is my number 6. I said, "Where's Vinnie?" I suspected with this album that it would be hard to point out the areas that Vinnie plays on. So far, I haven't noticed anything. Maybe he only helped with the songwriting at this point, is what I'm thinking. And then I'm like, well, obviously still plenty of album to go. We shall see, it being only the second track. Um, I don't know. Just I apparently didn't have anything to say about the song itself, though. So
You're right. I found it hard to make notes about most of this, actually. But yeah, this is actually my number 10 here. Uh, Chorus, I thought, it was a bit boring, and then it just went over and over and over. And uh, on the flip side of that, though, I did note that there's a couple of different bass players listed. So I have no idea who played what on what song, but just in both of the opening tracks, the bassist is going nuts.
wow.
Yeah, he's just tearing it up, and then that does continue throughout the whole album. So I mean, regardless of, I wondered at the time if it was the same bass player from song to song. I assume it wasn't based on the number of people that helped, but they got a bunch of really good people.
Hmm. Wonder if Vinny played any bass or something.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah, yeah. I find it interesting too. Like as far as when we do these albums we're not familiar with, how the note process, like I almost like it better than say like when we do the Kiss albums. You really didn't need to make notes because it's like the stuff like the back of your head. You could just easily speak. I noticed the difference in those two, and I kind of like the process of taking the notes and almost jotting down what we were thinking as we were listening at the time, and that way I don't forget a lot of things, especially when I'm not as familiar with it.
Yeah,
In
no,
my case,
yeah, I knew that that was going to be integral here, both from I think it was Lewis that was doing that at
yeah,
first. He had pages of notes, and then in the Hot in the Shade episode that we had Mark Middlecoff on, he had that too. He had a whole, I mean, several pages of a big notebook worth of notes, and I was like, man, that's a good idea because I'm sure I forget all sorts of crap.
absolutely. All right, moving into number 3. Track 3 is Betrayal. This is my number 1. I really dug this song, man. It kind of had well, for one, there's different lead vocals on this. It's female singing. There was just something about the hook of the vocals and the chorus. It just it did what it's supposed to do. It hooked me in, and it kind of had this, I don't know, almost like an eerie type of feeling throughout. But man, I don't know, it just caught me the right way, and I was really digging this track. Now that you mentioned the Madonna thing, it makes me think that maybe this was the song maybe they had intended on her to sing. And to be honest, I'm glad she didn't now because I like the way this turned out.
Yeah. Interestingly, according to Wikipedia, this was Doug Feiger on lead vocals.
What?
Yeah,
I swear to God, it's a female. It
it
has to be.
does kind of sound like a bit of a husky voiced girl. Yeah,
Huh.
I thought the same thing at the time when I flipped over. Now, if you kind of picture, say, the vocals for My Sharona next to this, I mean, I guess I can see the similarity there.
Yeah, I guess with Nick Gilder and I forget the guy that was in Jefferson Starship. Those both sound exactly like women when they not to say that in a disrespectful way, but
Right.
they you would think it's a woman when you first hear those voices.
Yep. Yeah. I thought the song had a really interesting feel, especially in comparison to the first two. You know, this was the first of many complete genre flipping on the head. The lyrics weren't really that comedic; they were pretty serious, which was
Yeah.
like, oh, wait a minute, you know. Uh, Near, I think the middle or maybe closer to the end, there's where the guitar suddenly comes in. I thought that was really that almost gave me chills the way that
Yes.
worked out. I was like, wow. However, I did end up putting this one as my number 7.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if part of it too is, like where we're at right now. We're approaching Halloween, so of course, I'm a big Halloween fan, all that stuff. So maybe that kind of caught me too, because it almost sounds like it could fit into like a little Halloween party soundtrack or something like that. Just kind of a creepy, different feeling. It wasn't that quirky, kind of thing you would expect. Especially, the first two songs were kind of like that, and then you get this, and it's just so different. So
Yeah.
okay, track 4 is "Shake Your Head, Let's Go to Bed," which we've ended up talking a lot about already. This is my number 2. Um, and I said, here's that word again. Wow.
Yeah.
um, Surprised how this one caught me off guard. I feel like I have heard this somewhere before, but I cannot pinpoint it. Um, sometimes I'm just really in the right mood to listen to this, the oddball type of stuff. And so far, this album is really surprising me because, again, I was, not really hesitant this time, but kind of thought I was expecting one thing and I'm kind of getting the other. And like you said, I really need to listen to this again because now knowing that Ozzy's in this and however I missed that. Um, so there's definitely some replay value already, and we're only on track 4. Um, with just about all 4 of these tracks, or at least 3 out of the 4.
Yeah, this song it really reminded me of like 80s sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those old movies, kind of like maybe Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure kind of comes to mind. Uh,
Nice.
Interesting there. Very sound effect heavy and just weird. This one and the next one really for me were like the I'm starting to drift off into space and I have no clue what's going on. Uh, my first note on this one was dot dot dot. Wait, that's Ozzy. And then the chorus came on and I was like, there, there's Ozzy. Holy crap. On another note, I'm fairly certain that that was a Vinnie solo in that song. That one to me sounded kind of like his signature use of the whammy bar vibrato.
Yeah, I would think of any songs on the album, he would especially want his name to be involved in one that has Ozzy on it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. Still though, in the grand scheme of things, I ended up making this one my number 9.
Yeah, okay. Next up, listen closely. This is the actual title: "Man versus the Empire Brain Building." My number 7. This one sounded like some sort of weird rave party. Uh, not a whole lot to this one for me, but I did catch the line about "I walked the line with Johnny Cash." I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, other than that, it just felt like some sort of weird. I was gonna say like an acid trip, but I don't know what that is actually like. So
Yeah. Yeah, the line that just repeats throughout this song is it's so weird.
yes.
Oh man. My I think this is where I texted you. It had to have been during this song is where I texted you because my note here doesn't even really have that much to do with the song. This is my number 8. And my note is if these guys were going for a pretty much constant what the hell vibe, and I'm pretty sure they were, they freaking nailed it. I'm completely at a loss, and I don't have any idea how I'm going to rate this album.
I like that. I mean, that's like the best description of the album right there.
Totally.
Next up is another one that we kind of discussed earlier is Return to the Valley of Outcome the Freeze. This is my number three. Really enjoyed the groove on this song, man. It just had a nice, cool groove the whole time. To be honest, I said at this point, I forgot that Vinny is even supposed to be on this album,
Yeah.
and I've really just been enjoying, all the different flavors that it's offered so far. And um, halfway through the song, I was like, oh yeah, Vinny's on this album. Like, I need to listen for him again. But yeah, man, that groove is just mm, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yes, this was my number four. I noted here that this one might be the most song-like so far. It didn't seem as focused on being weird as the last couple, at least. It just felt like an intentionally written good song, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this and the first track were probably closer to the style that each one had,
Yeah,
as far as more, like you said, sort of serious and groovy.
definitely.
Next up, we have Professor Knight. This one is my number eight. Finally heard some guitar really standing out on this one, so maybe Vinny has finally showed up.
Yeah.
Felt the chorus was pretty repetitive a little bit, um, so that's kind of why it went so low for me. But kind of just got tired of listening to that same line over and over.
Yeah. I appreciated the upbeat vibe on this one. Uh, I tend to do that a lot. I've noticed throughout these albums we've made notes for is that if there's a couple of songs that are lower mid-paced or even slow, and then suddenly there's an upbeat one, I'm like, oh, what's going on here? Um, this
Yes,
was
that's how we listen to music, people. We attach our ears to the speakers when we hear something we like. Don't make fun of us.
yes, perfect effect. Yeah, this one was another one that seemed a lot more song oriented to me too, rather than just being weird. And then I also had to note that the instrumentation on that one kind of reminded me of the first Sonic the Hedgehog game. So that kind of nostalgic throwback, I ended up putting this at number two.
I like that.
Yeah,
Next track is The Party Broke Up. This is my number 10. Pretty short song, nothing much to it again. Just a bunch of odd rambling about a party is really all it was. Um, so, least favorite on the album for me.
indeed. And interestingly, this is the only song on the album with a quote unquote lead vocal from one of the two guys. This is David Waz singing.
Lead ramble.
Uh, he definitely was not singing, so it's whatever you want to call that. Uh, Yeah, this one was my number six, and I thought it was a bit quirky. I think is the only reason it kind of went up a little bit. But we were right back to the weird here. Whereas the last couple felt like actual songs, this one was just like, all right, we're back in there. Okay. Um, Also, strangely, and maybe this was Bob or something. I thought some of the guitar leads in this one sounded like Ace.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it could be Bob.
Yeah.
So maybe those earlier songs, not knowing Bob was on this again, maybe that was Bob and not Vinny. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard telling.
I wish somebody would, unless there's a website out there that I just haven't found that has a more in-depth detail about all these albums that these Kiss guys have played on, to really talk more about what exactly they did and did not do.
Yeah.
Because people people are confused about that with Creatures of the Night with Vinny, let alone this kind of stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
Uh, okay, so we have two tracks left to go. Next one here is called Smile. This is my number five. Uh, Again, this one kind of lost my attention at times. I did notice some synthesizers going on and more guitar work. It was, it was a pretty upbeat song though. I will give it that. It wasn't, real drawn out or anything, but yeah, it just kind of lost my attention again with, I guess, the lyrics or maybe lack of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I actually interesting you said that because I actually had to go back and listen to this one a second time because I was kind of typing my overall thoughts, and when Zaz Turned Blue came on, I realized like, oh man, I didn't listen to that last one at all. So I had to go back and replay it. I did like it though. I thought the chorus was kind of cool. The sentiment was interesting, and then again, this one was back to a little bit more of a song focus
Mm.
rather than a goofy focus. So for that, I ended up putting this one at number three.
Oh, okay. And we come to the last track on the song. This is called Zaz Turned Blue. This is my number 9. Um, so a really weird piano ballad to end the album. And I believe I saw that this is Mel Torme, which we do know it is now. Again, a weird collaboration for this album, kind of
Yeah.
like with George Clinton on last week's the Michael Bolton album. Um, yeah, just really, really oddball, and uh, again, I guess now that I think about it, it kind of had a bit of a haunting, you know, type of feel to it at times, but no idea what what they're talking about. Zaz turned blue, all that stuff. So I don't know.
I got a clue into the lyrics here, which may have been what helped me here. Apparently, this is about a guy choking and just about choking to death several times. Apparently, yeah, this is about a guy who has a problem swallowing things. Apparently,
I mean, I didn't want to like say that I thought it was that literal that it was about somebody choking, but wow, learn how
so
to swallow, man.
yeah, yeah. So this one was my number one, and I'll tell you why. My favorite type of comedy song in the entire world is an absolutely dead seriously written and performed but hilarious vocal. And this one met every single requisite. You've got an actual like easy listening jazz legend
Yeah.
who by the way has a writing credit on this too, so he must have just maybe they handed him a page of lyrics and he just did it. And he just performed it exactly like that, completely seriously, singing these ridiculous lyrics. There's a freaking orchestra. And my only question is, how in the world did they talk Mel Torme into doing? So it was just, to me, it wasn't the perfect album ender in like what we've been looking for,
Right.
but to me, this was the perfect ending for this type of album. This
Yeah.
was just the epitome of what it seems to me like this band is kind of wrapped up in this song, in that it's a completely dead serious musical composition with ridiculous outlandish lyrics.
you know, Mel Torme must have just been trying to, get himself noticed by the younger, fans at the time and get his name out there. But
Yeah.
it's funny because like some reason I didn't really see the or hear it as comedy, but now that you say it that way, it's like I'll have to listen to it again. And I mean, I know what you mean because the name already is ridiculous, and then when you see Mel Torme sings it, that's kind of funny already.
Right.
And then knowing what it's about now, it's like, come on.
Who thinks of that?
Oh my god, that's going to have to be like one of the songs that plays over the PA for us or something.
Yes.
All right, so overall, I give this one a 4. Again, I was caught off guard. I knew nothing about this group except for their one big hit, again, Walk the Dinosaur. And this was a fun listen, at least at first. I will admit, by the last three songs, it did start to lose my attention. Not mention what we just talked about with Zaz. It may have revived me a little bit for that one.
Yeah.
But the first half of the album is a very fun listen. Great, very upbeat. Definitely, again, recommend giving this one a listen. Um, Especially for you Ozzy fans out there. Some of you may not even know that he did this. I know I sure didn't know before today. Um, but yeah, give it a listen. You might find something on here you like, and if anything, just for the humor and the oddball stuff to it. I got to go back to Branton, man. I feel like this it would be like right up his alley for the type of stuff that Branton always likes to listen to, and
Yeah.
I feel like he probably would have really been high on this album if he may have heard it. I don't know, but as far as if he were on this show doing this right now, I feel like he probably would have been pretty high on this album as well. So
Yes. I definitely agree. Four is what I gave this to. Um, Holy crap! What an experience the whole thing is.
yeah.
It's just as weird as I expected. Honestly, that might not even be right. I think it was a little bit weirder even than I was expecting. Uh, I'm not sure if I'll personally ever find a reason to listen to it again, but it was absolutely 100% funny enough to be worth at least the one listen.
Hmm.
I don't feel at all like the time was wasted. Uh, Laura Nero. I did enjoy several of the songs that seemed more like serious compositions for the time they were written. They seem like they could have been on any other pop rock album from that era and been considered right along with that. I was a little disappointed at the general lack of guitar. Um,
Hmm.
and as we've complained about on several of the previous albums, there doesn't really seem to be a real defining presence of Vinnie Vincent, which is the
Right.
whole reason we're ranking this. So I would have liked to have heard more things that were most definitely absolutely him.
Right.
Um, Geez, I would have liked more guitar solos in general, I think, actually, even if it had been anyone else. Some of the weird stuff on the album went just a little bit past the my personal taste of weird. Like I mentioned around Shake Your Head and Man versus the Empire Brain Building. Although I'll admit that the repeating line in Empire Brain Building was hilarious, it just kind of lost me.
Mm,
In fact, around that point of the album, the whole thing came really close to just losing me, and I'm like, what am I doing?
yeah.
But what really saved me was Out Come the Freaks.
Mm.
Uh, I know it wasn't my personal number one, but just that reminder right smack in the middle of the album after those really weird ones that the guys are capable of really good songwriting. It was nice. Professor Knight following it up was perfect, in my opinion. All in all, I enjoyed the end of the album, I think, much better than the beginning, which is kind of weird. Uh, Other than the party broke up, it's a bit more serious. And then, of course, Zaz Turned Blue is not serious at all, but it's a good song. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's weird, but throughout the whole album, there's a good mixture of serious instrumentation to offset crazy lyrics, which, as I mentioned, is when it comes to comedy music for me, kind of a that's my benchmark. I know I'll like it if it's that.
Hmm. Yeah, and don't misunderstand us. Any listeners, like we're not sitting here saying we expect to hear Vinnie Vincent singing on songs on all these albums that he's, but I totally understand what you mean. Like, you expect to kind of hear that signature guitar type of sound, or whatever that Vinny's pretty well known for. So that's what makes me think that maybe he maybe helped with writing a lot of these songs more than what he actually played on the album. But they may have just given him that credit for the whole album for whatever reason, or who
Right.
knows what. But maybe he did play a little bit of bass or something. Who we don't know right now. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, give it a listen. You know, this time, I just listened to the album through YouTube, but I'm now like already kind of considering, maybe finding it and downloading it, or maybe even trying to find the vinyl, even because I can see myself. maybe revisiting a couple of these songs on occasion. Um, I feel like I would at least, maybe throw them on my iPod, and you know, if they come on in the car, maybe I'll listen, stuff like that. But because that's generally how I do all these albums that we review. I either download them and listen that way, or if I actually do have the copy. But like I say, with this one, I just chose YouTube, and now I kind of wish I had already found it to download. So I may go back and do that after we are done. So we have final tally here. Again, it's just Luke and I right now. Hopefully, even next week's episode, we'll have some more votes in for this album.
Yeah, I can tell you, looking at these results, that it would not be hard to upset our top three at this point. And there's a couple of ties, so yeah, definitely get some votes in there. We can wake it all up.
I bet the top threes. I don't even know, like, because it felt like it was kind of left and right as far as just our picks. So.
Right, right. All right, so with our two ties, our dead last place here is actually eighth place, and it's one of the ties, and that is Bow Wow Wow Wow, and the party broke up, which interestingly were our number 10 and 6 picks, respectively. Kind of strange that those ended up that way. Um, Next is seventh place, Man versus the Empire Brain Building. Fairly deserved spot there. In the number sixth place, Shake Your Head, Let's Go to Bed. Tied for fifth place, Professor Knight and Zaz Turned Blue. In fourth place, Knockdown Made Small, Treated Like a Rubber Ball. And our top three for this album: in third place, Smile. In second place, Betrayal. And our first place, Return to the Valley of Out Come the Freaks.
Nice. I like that. I got a feeling it'll probably change pretty heavily.
Right.
Probably even with one more person voting.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, give this one a listen, guys, and get those votes in. It's some interesting stuff. But guess what? As we promised, the next two episodes, especially, we have got some big ones coming up. So we definitely hope to get a lot more feedback from you guys, especially on these next two.
Yeah.
So the first one we have is the first Black and Blue album, and then what comes after that?
We got Wendy O. Williams. Yeah.
The unofficial Kiss album, as some say. You got pretty much every member of Kiss playing on it, just about, as well as production, I believe. So excited for these next two, especially. It's going to be a little different change of pace there, getting into some more well-known type of stuff. So definitely looking forward to it. So, well, I guess that wraps everything up then. Get those votes in. Again, subscribe to the channel. Join our group on Facebook. Please keep spreading the word. We definitely appreciate all of you. So until next week, then, we shall see you for Black and Blue.